When you look at the structure overall of viruses, you can get some important clues. In this case, there appears to be an amino acid, a type of protein that is missing that is pretty important with the ability for the virus to replicate itself, to reproduce. As you know, when you get exposed even to a little bit of virus, it gets into your body and starts to replicate itself. When it gets to a critical mass, that's when you get sick and that's when you can become contagious. So if it's missing this protein, two things happen. One is that it may be a more mild illness as opposed to the severe illness, and we've seen that play out here in the United States, and also it may be less transmissible. Very important when talking about pandemics and the ability for this thing to spread worldwide. So potentially some good news. That's in the laboratory. They looked at this virus and compared it to viruses of pandemics of past, and like you said, Melissa, some potentially good news there.
I know you are just back in the States from Mexico City. You are working to investigate this new virus. You're at the CDC giving us a behind-the-scenes look. So what are you most focused on learning?
Well, there's a couple of things. You know, this is the place where a lot of the final stop, if you will, for a lot of the specimens. The specimens are going to go to the CDC for final testing. What does that mean exactly? What do they do here? How do they sort of figure it out? How do they find or diagnose the H1N1 in the first place? Also, there's been a lot of talk about creating a vaccine. What goes into that decision? Who decides? What's the trigger? Is there a certain number of cases that have to have been diagnosed and confirmed before that happens? And finally, you know, the surveillance. We hear so much about surveillance being key here, Melissa. Identifying clusters and being able to contain them before they grow. A lot of that takes place in a sort of command central here at the CDC as well. We're going to go inside. They're giving us a very unique look at this place and looking at the swine flu itself. There's some of that back here. It's going to be a fascinating day, I think, Melissa.
No rest for the weary for you, for your team, just coming back into the States. On a personal note, your crew, you were all in Mexico City. You're now back here at home in Atlanta, where your families reside. Have you been able to see them, or are you keeping your distance because of what you may have been exposed to?
Yeah, despite my real desire to see them, I have been unable to see them. As you know, I have a very young children in the house, including a 5-week-old. So I have decided, on the advice of some of the doctors here, to socially isolate myself for a time. It's not a quarantine. I'm just not going to be around in close proximity of my young children. We're also, you know, none of us, Jeremy, Danielle, myself, we're all part of the crew here. None of us have really had symptoms. We haven't been sick, but we are taking Tamiflu, which you know is an antiviral medication, again on the advice of our doctors over here, to try and potentially prevent any symptoms from developing. We were in very close proximity to people in Mexico City who were infected. Now, we did exercise all the precautions that we were advised to do so, wore masks, a lot of hand washing, all the things that you've been hearing about, we've been talking about for some time.